I'm going to show you the process of what it takes to take this brass from a fired brass at the range and show you the steps of what I'm going to need to do to make this a completed round. So I'm going to show you my press. I'm going to use the Lee, the very most basic Lee press that they have on the market. This is a really inexpensive press. It works really well though. I'm using this press today because I sold my other reloading press so that I could get some money to get a progressive press, and right now I'm looking at maybe getting the Dillon or the Hornady. I'm not sure which one yet. I'm going to be grabbing some things and laying them out on my bench here, and these are some of the things that I'm going to be using during this process. So don't pay too much attention to these right now. I'll explain everything here shortly. So these are just some of the things that you need to have if you're going to be reloading. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about that you're going to need to reload is, obviously we've already addressed it, and that's the brass itself. Okay, now you can see that the primer's been spent. It's been fired. I've cleaned it in a tumbler. It sat there for a couple hours. It's pretty shiny, pretty clean. And so that's the first thing you need. The next thing you're going to need is primers. In this case, since it's a 30-06 round that we're reloading, we're going to use large rifle primers. I use the CCIs. That's the next thing we're going to need. And that we're going to need a bullet tip. We're going to use the Sierra Game King 165 grain boat tail bullet with a soft tip. Pretty good bullet. So I'm only going to do one bullet on this video. I'm just going to reload one bullet. We're going to need some sort of lube to lube this bullet. The reason we have to lube it is so that when it goes into the dies, it'll have a smooth process doing that. This is my little pan that I'm going to use to hold my powder, and unfortunately right now I don't have a funnel, so I hope you don't laugh at me too much, but the funnel went when I sold my other equipment, so bear with me. I'm going to do the best I can with what I have in front of me. The powder that we're going to be using today is IMR 4064. It's a good powder. It's an extruded powder. I'm just going to pour a little bit of that into this little bowl so that, because I don't like dipping into the canister itself, so I'm just going to get a little bit of powder in the bowl, have it ready for me. You're also going to need a scale to measure the weight of the charge that you're going to put into your bullet. Today we're going to be using this Frankfurt Arsenal little digital scale. I think when I bought this scale I paid like $35 or something. It's a really good scale. It works great. We're going to be talking about that. And obviously the bowl to help measure. You need some calipers. Calipers are really important. These help you measure your lengths of things, and you can get a digital caliper like what I have, or you could get an analog, the older style with the dial on it, but I prefer the digital. Obviously we're going to need some dies. Today we're going to be using the RCBS 30-06 full length die set. There's two dies in there. There's a decapping die. You can tell that it's the capper because of the decapping pin. And we're also going to have a bullet seating die. Okay, and I'll explain that a little more here in a second. You need to have a shell holder. Don't forget to buy that, because the die kits, some of them don't come with shell holders. So now we have pretty much everything we need for the most part, except for one thing. You're going to need some sort of manual that's going to have your recipes that are going to tell you how much powder and what the length of the bullet and stuff like that is. And I recommend having a couple of those on hand. I use the Lee one here, and I also have the Lyman 49th edition, and this is a real good source of information. One more thing that I forgot to mention just a second ago is we need some way of putting a new primer into the old case. So today I'm going to use this Lee Auto Prime. and it's a good tool. It lets you do one primer at a time. Works real good. Now, I have the original model, and I had a little problem. I accidentally broke the little arm here. So this arm that you see is off of the new Lee Auto Prime XP, I think they call it. But it fits great and it works great. So there's our priming tool. A couple other things that I have sitting here is the deburring tool. This is to help clean the case, the mouth of the case. You know, you might use it after you trim to get some of the burrs out. I'll show you that in a minute. This is the Lee cutter, and the Lee case, I forget what they call this, but what it does is you stick it in the shell and it helps you get the right length that you need to get the case the right length. We're also going to use the little Lee deburring tool. That works good too. And one last thing, this is the chuck that goes into your drill for that trimmer. So now I'll get this process started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put the shell holder in the press right there. Now we're going to raise the ram all the way up to the top, as high as it'll go, and I'm backing off this lock ring. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread this die down until it touches the top of the shell holder. So I'm going all the way down. There, it touched the shell holder. Now I'm going to back the ram down just a little bit, and I'm going to turn it in another half a turn. Now I'm going to raise the ram again, put it against the die, and what that'll do is that'll help it from turning so that I can lock this lock ring without losing any adjustments. This lock ring doesn't have to be real tight, just snug, not real tight. Okay, so now I'm going to take my case, and the first step of this station here is I'm going to deprime the case and I'm going to resize it. Well, like I said a second ago, that process needs some sort of lubrication. So I'm going to use this unique lube here to put on the case. And actually I got way too much. You don't want to use too much. So I might actually grab my rag here in a second and get a little bit off because I got a little much. If you put too much case lube on here, what will happen is you'll put little wrinkles around the neck of the case here. So to avoid that, we're just going to put a thin layer. I like to put a little bit inside the mouth of the case. This will help when the expander ball goes inside. So there it is. It's not lubed too much. Put it in the press, raise the ram all the way up. The primer popped out, and we've just resized the case. As you come down, you'll feel like a catch, and that's the ball. Here's the old spent primer. Came out of the bottom of the case. Right there, that's the old primer. There's the anvil facing you. So I'm going to run this through one more time. All the way up, all the way down. Now, what we've done is we've knocked the primer out and we've resized the case. At this point, I'm going to take a little rag here and I'm going to get most of the lube off. Doesn't have to be that big of a deal. Just get some of the lube off. I'm going to reach over here and grab my little brush. I have this little brush that I like to use, and I put that inside the case mouth just to try to clean it out a little bit. I don't know if you can see that too well, but so now we have a decapped case, and we've cleaned the mouth of it. So this primer pocket has a little bit of junk inside of it. So what I'm going to do, I'm reaching over here, I'm going to find a screwdriver, and I'm just going to get a little bit of this junk out. They actually make a tool for this. It's made by Lee. It's a pretty good little tool. In fact, I think I have one. I don't know, maybe I don't. But I just cleaned that primer pocket a little bit. Make sure that your flash hole is clear, and the decapping pin should have went through there. I'm saying like if you tumble them after you decap them. The next step that we need to talk about is we need to make sure that we trim this case to length. So I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to grab my nice little cordless drill here. And I'm going to take this drill and I'm going to chuck this into the drill. Okay, so now I'm going to take my case, insert it in here, close my drill, and just like I said before, I'm going to use this tool here to trim the brass. See that brass flying everywhere? This will trim the case to the length that it needs to be for that bullet. Before I take it out, I want to note that the tip here, you might see these little burrs. I don't know if you can see, but there's little burrs. Might have to get close to see it. I don't know if you can see it or not, but we need to get rid of those. So I'm going to use this little Lee tool in the case there, and that'll get rid of some of them burrs. You can flip it over and put it in the mouth a little bit. Just want to clean it. Doesn't have to be too big of a deal. You got to also use your other deburring tool. So now we've got a good clean case mouth, and we're ready for our next step, and that's going to be to prime the case. So we're going to find, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to use the CCI large rifle primer. Try not to touch inside the anvil too much, because especially if you're like me right now and your hands are still got a little bit of junk on them, so I'm using this rag to kind of clean my hands a little bit to get them a little more prepared. Now, since we're only going to do one case, I'm just going to insert the primer in there directly. Now, normally you wouldn't do that. Normally you'd take this little lid off and everything else. Another step that you might want to do in the priming process is just clean out this primer pocket a little bit. Just deburr it very mildly. You see, it's barely, I didn't really hit it that much, just barely hit it. That'll help make sure there's no burrs or anything on the brass. I'm going to push with my thumb and I'm going to insert a primer into this case. Okay, and I want to make sure that this primer is flush. At the most of it being out is flush, but actually what I want is it a little bit recessed, just underneath, just a little bit, not too much. Just want it in there just a little bit. So now we have a primed case that's been resized. It's also been trimmed. I'm going to run this brush one more time, blow it out. And now I'm prepared for the next step, and that is we're going to put some powder in it. Okay, so let me move some of this stuff out of the way. I'm going to get my powder right here. Now there's my scale. Like I said before, we're fixing to add powder to it. Now, I sold my other equipment, so I sold my powder funnel, so I'm going to use this little scoop here to get powder and put it into the pan here. So bear with me on that. But before we know how much powder, we got to look it up in our book. So here's my Lyman 49th edition again. And the bullet that we're going to use today is a 165 grain Sierra Spitzer boat tail Game King. It's a good bullet, so we got to keep that in mind. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find the 30-06. There it is, 30-06 Springfield. There's a little bit of information that I need to pay attention to, and that is I need to look at the overall length of the cartridge. So I'm going to get over here and I'm going to find a pencil. I'm going to point to a few things for you. From the tip of the bullet to the end of the bullet is supposed to be 3.34 inches. Okay, so I'm going to write that number down on my press here, on my wood. I don't know if you can see me writing it down there, but I wrote this number down right here. See, I wrote 3.34. We'll get to that in a second. So I'm going to use the large rifle primer, and we're using a 165 grain bullet. Now once again, look at the powder that we're using. We're using IMR 4064. So we need to go down here and find a 165 grain jacketed ballistic tip bullet, and the powder that we're going to use is IMR 4064. And now you notice that that's in bold and all the rest of them are not. We need the one in bold because that's going to give us the most accurate round for that bullet. Now it says we can go anywhere from 47 grains, which will give us 2,495 feet per second, all the way up to 52 grains. So we're going to go with the 52 grains because it's in bold. That was the highest accurate load that they had for that bullet. So 3.285 is the case overall length, but we're going to go 3.34, and that'll be from the tip of the bullet once again all the way to the case. So now that we know we need 52 grains of powder, I'm going to write that down as well. So I wrote down the length of the bullet that it should be when it's finished, and I also wrote down how much our powder charge is. I wrote down the powder charge information because I don't want to forget about that. Don't want to get complacent. So we're going to use this little pan here. We're going to put it on our scale, and when we turn the scale on, what's going to happen is it'll calibrate itself to that pan. See, it's zeroed at that pan? So we need 52 grains of powder. We're coming in. We need 52 grains. See, the scale responds pretty quickly. 50, we're getting close. 52.0. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it off the scale, and I'm going to put it back down. Make sure that once again that we have the accurate measurement. I'm going to get like 1 or 2 little granules. Just drop it in there. This is plenty. 52.0, right on the button. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this powder aside, and I'm going to turn the scale off. I'm going to get my case that I had earlier that I prepped, and I'm going to bring it over here and I'm going to set it on the scale, and I'm going to turn the scale on. And what's going to happen is that scale is now calibrating to that brass. So now the brass is zeroed. So I'm going to take this brass, and hopefully I don't spill anything. I usually have a funnel, but like I said, I sold it. But I'm going to put this charge into this case, and then we're going to weigh it one more time. And like I said a second ago, that scale is calibrated to this case. It's zeroed for this case. So it should say the same reading that it said in the bowl, 51.9. So we're good. We've got a good charge. In fact, I could add 1 or 2 granules if I want. Look at it. It just went to 52, so we're going to leave it alone. Now if you look down in the mouth of the case, you'll see the powder in there. See that? The next step, we're going to set this aside, turn our scale off. We're going to start getting ready to seat the bullet. But before we can seat that bullet, we need to take these dies out. So I'm going to remove this decapping die. And I'm going to insert the bullet seating die. But before I go crazy with the bullet seating die, I'm going to loosen all the adjustments so that everything is backed out all the way. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to show you the process that I use to find that depth of that bullet, to get that overall length, that 3.34 inches. So I'm going to thread the die in until I touch the tool head, or excuse me, the shell holder, right there. I'm going to lower the ram a little bit, and I'm going to back off about 1/4 of a turn. Raise the ram and lock the lock ring. Now there should be a small gap in between the shell holder and the die. So I'm going to take my charged case, insert it into the press. Since this is a short press, I got to kind of feed the bullet up a little bit, and I'm going to raise the ram all the way. Nothing's going to happen because I backed this out all the way. So I'm going to lower this bullet seating stem until I feel contact with the case. Once I feel that, I'm going to lower the ram, and I'm going to go like maybe 2 or 3 turns. Then I'll seat the bullet a little bit. Take it out, and I'm going to come over here and find my calipers. The length that we're looking for is 3.34 inches. I always move these calipers open slowly. I never open them fast, because if you open them too fast, you might throw them off a little bit. So the length that we're looking for is 3.34. We're at 3.40 right now. So what we need to do is we need to go through and tighten this a little more. Put the bullet back in, raise the ram, seat it a little more, then we'll take another measurement. And when you make these adjustments on your bullet seating depths, see, we're still a little bit long, 3.37. We're getting close though. When you make these adjustments up here, you want to make them very small, especially when you're getting close to the length you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like maybe 1/8 of a turn. I'm going to raise the ram again. You'll feel it seat a little deeper, and check my measurement. 3.37. Back in the press. This could be a little bit of a cumbersome process. I'm going to go a little bit more. Raise the ram. Check it again. .36. Get close. And this little press is the least expensive one that Lee offers, and I've had a lot of luck with it. I've done 30-06, I've done 223, I've done 30-30s, I've done 357s, and probably a few others that I forgot to mention, but it's a good little press. I mean, 3.35. Okay, so we're getting really close. We're looking for 3.34. Like I said earlier, very small adjustments here. I think we might be close. 3.34.70. So we need to go just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and seat that little nut right there, because I think we're pretty close to where we need to be. 3.3435. That's pretty good. Just a little bit more, not much at all. Right on the button. 3.34 even. Couldn't get any closer than that. So now, once you get this set, you want to put the bullet in, raise the ram, tighten this down, and also tighten this down. And what this will do is, if you were making more than one bullet, this would pretty much ensure that you're going to have that same depth for each bullet after this. See, and I'm not making it gorilla tight, I'm just tightening it enough so that as we go, we're going to get that same depth. So everything's set, and this is the round that we have here. 3.34, right on the money. Very good job. So this is basically what it takes. Like I said earlier at the start of the video, when we came into the tumbler, to take this bullet from something that was dirty and to a nice finished bullet that's got a brand new primer in it, and a bullet, you know, So that's the process of reloading the 30-06. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found some information that was good for you. And if you feel free to leave a comment if you like, and please keep the comments clean, no dirty language or anything, otherwise I'll delete them.